Have you ever wondered why some men can captivate a woman with just a few words, while others, even though polite, kind, and genuinely interested, are quickly forgotten? Why are there men who never ask obvious questions, yet somehow make a woman reveal her deepest secrets? The answer lies in something Niccolò Machiavelli understood over 500 years ago. Power does not belong to the one who asks questions, but to the one who observes. It is not in the person seeking information, but in the one who inspires revelation. Today, you will discover why asking questions can be the most fatal mistake a man makes when talking to a woman. More than that, you will learn how to turn every conversation into a subtle dance, where she, without realizing it, starts chasing you. But let me warn you from the start, this is not just another video about seduction techniques. It is about deep transformation. It is about stopping the habit of begging for attention and starting to command presence. There is a dangerous belief that poisons the male mind, the idea that asking questions shows genuine interest, that being curious is being charming, that the more you know about her, the more connected you will be. But Machiavelli, that ruthless student of human nature, saw something few dared to notice. The man who asks questions has already lost the game before it even begins. Why does this happen? Because every question carries a silent confession. I don't know. I need you to complete me. I depend on your answers to keep existing here. Think about it. When you ask where she works, what she likes to do on weekends, or how her day was, what are you really saying? You are communicating. I have no content of my own. I need your material to keep this conversation alive. And women feel this, not consciously, but on an instinctive level. They sense when a man is begging for information just to stay relevant in the interaction. Machiavelli wrote that a prince should be both feared and loved, but if he must choose, he should choose to be feared. In the context of relationships, this translates to, it is better to be intriguing than predictable. When you stop asking obvious questions, something extraordinary happens. The silence that forms is not empty. It is full of expectation. And in that space, she begins to wonder, why isn't he asking about me like everyone else? What does he know that I don't? Now comes the real revolution. Instead of asking, you observe. Instead of extracting information, you offer reflections. Imagine two men in front of the same woman. Man A says, "You seem thoughtful today. Did something happen? Want to talk about it?" Man B says, "You carry conversations in your gaze that never end on their own." As if every silence is an opportunity to return to a thought that bothers you. Do you see the brutal difference? The first is asking for information. The second is offering a deep reading. The first puts her in control of what is revealed. The second takes control of the narrative. When you make an observation instead of a question, you completely reverse the dynamic. Now it is she who has to react to what you noticed. She becomes curious about how you reached your conclusion. Machiavelli would call this, vert is the ability to shape circumstances in your favor without using brute force. You are not attacking with direct questions. You are creating a magnetic field where she is naturally drawn to reveal herself. But be careful. Your observations must be genuine, not memorized formulas. They must come from a place of true attention to what she is communicating through posture, tone of voice, pauses, and gestures. A woman who avoids eye contact while talking about work is not just being shy. She is showing discomfort with the topic. One who smiles too much may be compensating for nervousness. A woman who crosses her arms is not necessarily closed off. She may be protecting herself from something you haven't yet noticed. These readings, when expressed elegantly, create a hypnotic effect. She thinks, how did he notice this? What else does he perceive about me? Here we reach the most dangerous and powerful territory. Silence. Machiavelli knew that silence is a sharper weapon than any word, because it forces the other to reveal their cards without showing yours. Most men fear silence in a conversation. They feel the need to fill every pause with comments, jokes, or more questions, but in doing so, they waste the most revealing moment of any interaction. Silence makes people feel exposed, and when someone feels exposed in front of you, two things can happen. Either she retreats or she surrenders. If she retreats, she was not for you. If she surrenders, you have just created a level of intimacy no question could reach. Think of silence as a test that separates shallow women from deep ones. The shallow woman fills the void with empty words. The deep one allows herself to feel the discomfort and in that process reveals who she truly is. But silence cannot be empty. It must be full of presence. You cannot be anxious, nervous, or thinking about your next line. You need to be genuinely present, observing and feeling the moment. There is an ancient technique in martial arts called zanshin, the mind that remains. It is a state of relaxed attention, where you are fully present but without tension. The same state must be applied to silence in conversations. When you master this art, something magical happens. Silence stops being awkward and becomes magnetic. She does not want to escape it. She wants to fill it with her deepest revelations. Machiavelli wrote about political leadership, but his principles apply perfectly to conversational leadership. A leader does not ask what others want to do. A leader sets the direction and invites others to follow. In conversation, leading means setting the emotional tone, the rhythm, and the depth of the dialogue. It is not about dominating or controlling. It is about creating an environment where she feels safe to be vulnerable. How does this work in practice? Instead of asking about her interests, you share an observation about life that reveals your depth. For example, I was watching people on the subway today. It's fascinating how each one is living a complete drama, yet we only see the surface. It makes her think about how many layers we hide, right? See what happened. You didn't ask about her life philosophy. You shared a reflection that naturally invites her to share hers. You led the conversation to a deeper territory without forcing anything. Conversational leadership also means knowing when to change the subject, when to deepen a topic, and when to create a pause. It is like being the conductor of a symphony, where she is the soloist. A conversational leader is never desperate for approval. He can disagree politely, question assumptions, and even create a bit of creative tension, because he knows that well-managed tension creates attraction. Machiavelli understood that power lies as much in what you reveal as in what you hide. In relationships, this translates to an uncomfortable truth. The completely transparent man is completely predictable. This does not mean you should lie or be manipulative. It means you should be selective about what you share and when you share it. Most men make the mistake of revealing everything in the first conversation. They tell their life story, dreams, fears, and achievements. They think this creates intimacy, but in reality it creates boredom. Mystery works because it activates natural curiosity. When you reveal only fragments of who you are, she automatically wants to piece them together. You become a puzzle she wants to solve, but mystery must be authentic. It cannot be artificial or forced. It must come from a genuinely interesting life, real experiences, and cultivated emotional depth. How do you create authentic mystery? First, by developing a life rich in experiences and reflections. Second, by learning to share these experiences in layers, not all at once. For example, instead of saying, "I travel a lot because I work as an international consultant," you can say, "I have a habit of observing how people behave differently in each place I visit." It's almost like every city has its own emotional language. The first sentence is information. The second is an invitation to curiosity. Here we enter advanced territory, the art of intellectual provocation. Machiavelli knew that people are more attracted to those who challenge their thinking than to those who simply agree. An intellectual provocation is not an offense or an attack. It is an invitation for her to think differently, to question her own assumptions. For example, if she says she prefers romantic men, instead of automatically agreeing, you might respond, "Interesting. I have a theory that people who claim to prefer romance are actually avoiding real intensity. It is easier to handle nice gestures than deep connections." This is not an attack. It is a provocation that makes her question her own preferences. And this questioning activates the part of the brain that creates attraction, the part that enjoys challenges. But beware, intellectual provocation requires emotional intelligence. You need to read her reactions and know when to pause, when to deepen, and when to change direction. Provocation must also be balanced with moments of validation. You cannot be constantly challenging. That becomes tiring. The ideal is to alternate between moments of provocation and moments of genuine connection. One of the most powerful strategies Machiavelli taught was inversion, making the opponent take the position you want without realizing they were guided there. In conversations, this means making her take the role of trying to impress you instead of you trying to impress her. How does this work? Through a concept called qualifying. Instead of trying to prove your worth, You subtly have her prove hers. But this must not be done rudely or arrogantly. It must be done with elegance and charm. For example, if she mentions she likes art, instead of trying to impress her with your artistic knowledge, you could say, "Interesting. You seem like someone who feels things deeply, rather than someone who appreciates art just for status. Or am I wrong?" See what happened? You put her in a position where she wants to prove she is genuine, that she has depth. She shifted from judging you to being evaluated by you. This inversion is powerful because it completely changes the dynamic. Now she is investing energy to gain your approval. Machiavelli spoke about presenza, the quality some leaders have to command attention simply by being present. In relationships, presence is more attractive than any conversation technique. Presence is not about being loud or seeking attention. It is about being fully in the moment, without anxiety about the future or regret about the past. A man with presence is not thinking about what to say next, not worried about how he is being perceived, not trying to control the outcome of the conversation. He is simply there, fully available for what is happening. This quality is magnetic because we live in an era of constant distraction. Everyone is thinking about the next commitment, the next post, the next message. Someone who is genuinely present stands out like an oasis in the desert of modern anxiety. Presence also shows in body language. A present man does not fidget, does not check his phone every 5 minutes, maintains eye contact without being intrusive. His posture communicates confidence without arrogance. But presence goes beyond the physical. It is also emotional presence, the ability to be available for her feelings without trying to fix or resolve everything immediately. Machiavelli understood that a little tension is necessary to maintain interest. Relationships without tension die of boredom. The secret is knowing how to create and manage the right tension. Attention is not destructive conflict. It is the difference between the known and the unknown, the comfortable and the exciting. It is the feeling that something may happen, but you are not sure what. How to create positive tension through contrasts. Be warm but maintain an air of mystery. Be present but not completely available. Be interested but not needy. Tension also comes from unpredictability. If she always knows how you will react, the tension disappears. But if you sometimes surprise her with an unexpected response, a different perspective, a reaction she did not anticipate, the tension stays alive. For example, if she makes a comment expecting a specific reaction, you can respond completely differently from what she expected. This creates an interesting imbalance that keeps her attention. But beware, tension must be measured. Too much tension creates anxiety. Too little tension creates boredom. The goal is to find that point where she feels simultaneously comfortable and intrigued. Machiavelli knew that perceived value is more important than actual value. In relationships, this means how you position yourself is more important than your objective qualifications. Most men try to show value through external achievements, career, money, status. But true value lies in how you relate to yourself and the world. A man of value does not need to brag. His qualities reveal themselves naturally through his attitudes, perspectives, and how he handles challenges. Value is also communicated through what you do not do. You don't constantly apologize, seek approval after every comment, or try to please at all costs. A man of value has standards. He does not accept just any behavior. He is not willing to do anything just to keep a woman interested. This selectivity, when communicated with class, increases your perceived value. Authentic value comes from continuous personal development. Reading, studying, reflecting, traveling, experiencing, building a life rich in meaning and purpose. Machiavelli understood that timing is everything in politics. The same applies to relationships. Knowing when to speak and when to stay silent, when to approach and when to create distance, when to be vulnerable and when to be mysterious. Perfect timing cannot be taught through rigid rules. It is a skill developed through practice and attention to subtle signals. Some indicators it is time to deepen the conversation. She maintains prolonged eye contact. Her body language is open. She asks personal questions. She shares intimate information without being prompted. Indicators it is time to create space. She is distracted, giving short answers, avoiding eye contact. Her body language is closed. Timing also applies to ending the conversation. A common mistake is prolonging a conversation beyond its ideal point. It is better to end on a high note, leaving her wanting more than to exhaust the topic and create awkwardness. Machiavelli would say, better to leave being desired than to stay being tolerated. There is a dangerous myth that men must always be tough or alpha. Machiavelli knew the most effective leaders know when to show strength and when to show humanity. Strategic vulnerability is about sharing genuine aspects of who you are, but at the right moment and in the right measure. It is not about fully opening up. It is about showing that you are human and emotionally deep. Well-placed vulnerability can create more connection than hours of superficial conversation, but it must be genuine, not calculated. For example, if you are talking about dreams and she shares something personal, you could respond, "It's interesting you say that. I spent much of my life trying to be what others expected of me. Only recently have I begun to discover what I truly want." This shows depth without being dramatic. It shows you reflect on your own life without being self-indulgent. The key is balance. Vulnerability without neediness. Depth without drama. Humanity without weakness. Perhaps the hardest concept to understand but the most powerful to apply is detachment. Machiavelli taught that the one who needs more of something is in a position of weakness. Detachment does not mean not caring. It means not being desperate for the outcome. It is the difference between wanting something and needing something. When you converse with detachment, extraordinary things happen. First, you stop trying to control her reactions. Second, you become more authentic because you are not performing to gain approval. Third, you become more attractive because neediness repels and freedom attracts. Detachment communicates subtly, in your relaxed posture, calm tone of voice, how you react or do not react to her tests. But true detachment is not a technique. It is a natural consequence of living a rich and complete life where no single person can define your value or happiness. Machiavelli was a master at reading people. He knew every individual is different, and strategies effective with one person may be disastrous with another. Emotional calibration is the ability to read the signals of the person in front of you and adjust your approach in real time. Some women respond better to intellectual provocation, others prefer emotional depth. Some like a bit more tension, others need more security. Signals that you are well calibrated. She is engaged, asking questions, sharing personal information. Her body language is open and relaxed, signs of miscalibration. She is physically withdrawing, giving short answers, avoiding eye contact, appearing uncomfortable. Miscalibration is not about completely changing your personality for each person. It is about expressing different authentic aspects of who you are, depending on what resonates best with her. Just like the first impression, the last impression is crucial. Machiavelli knew that how you finish something is often remembered more than how you started. A masterful ending is not about having the last word or making a dramatic grand finale. It is about leaving at the right moment, in the right way, leaving her with a positive feeling and curiosity about the next encounter. Some principles for a good ending. First, end on a high note. Do not let the conversation drag or become awkward. When you feel you have reached an interesting point of connection, that may be the ideal moment to end. Second, be genuine about enjoying the conversation, but do so without sounding desperate or needy. Third, if you want to see her again, be direct but elegant. Instead of asking, "Can I see you again?" you can say, "I would like to continue this conversation another time. How about a coffee on Thursday?" Fourth, if she hesitates or seems uncertain, accept gracefully. "Oh, sincere, I completely understand," shows much more class than insisting or trying to convince her. After this journey, through Machiavellian principles applied to conversation, one truth emerges. The most attractive man is not the one who asks the smartest questions, but the one who inspires the deepest revelations. He does not ask about her dreams, because his own reflections on life naturally invite her to share hers. He does not ask about her past, because his presence in the moment makes her want to open up about who she really is. This man understands that attraction does not arise from a well-executed interrogation, but from the subtle dance between two people who recognize each other as equally interesting. He knows that true desire emerges, not when she answers your questions, but when she starts asking questions about you. Machiavelli taught us that real power is invisible. In conversations, this translates into a profound truth. You achieve more by being the mystery she wants to uncover than by being the open book she can read in 5 minutes. But remember, all of this only works if it comes from an authentic place. You cannot fake depth, simulate mystery, or perform presence. First, you must become the man who does not need to ask because he already knows how to observe. The man who does not need to extract because he inspires revelation. The man who does not need to prove value because he lives with purpose. And when you become this man, something extraordinary happens. You will discover that the most interesting conversations are those where both of you are discovering something new, not about facts and information, but about the depths of human experience. This is the true art of conversation, according to Machiavelli. It is not about techniques or strategies, but about becoming someone so interesting that others naturally want to reveal themselves to you. And when that happens, you are not just conversing. You are creating moments of genuine connection that can change two lives forever. The question is no longer what should I ask. The question now is, who do I need to become so that she wants to tell me everything spontaneously? And that, my friend, is a question only you can answer.